Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Israel Hawkins. Jeff is on assignment. Today we bring you interesting reports about one particular person who's stirring the pot of controversy with comments he made in response to a question he was asked concerning sin. Duck Dynasty's Phil Robertson is making some waves this week, but not on a boat in Louisiana swampland. This time it's inland with some quotes from the Bible. Now, the whole thing was triggered by a GQ interview this week in which Phil spoke out against homosexuality. This in turn led to Phil Robertson's suspension from the popular A&E network. Senior editor Shauna Murphy of Hollywood.com reported on some of these statements, including a sermon Phil gave back in 2010. Take a look at this video.
Hey guys, this is Shauna with your Breaking Hollybuzz. Now, a new video has surfaced of Phil Robertson of Duck Dynasty doubling down on his anti-gay comments. Now, this video comes from a sermon that Phil gave back in 2010 at the Berean Bible Church in Pennsylvania. So Phil's giving this really impassioned speech against the government, against abortion, against gay rights, and he quotes a very literal interpretation of the Bible, saying that gays are hateful, murderers, ruthless, and evil.
Women with women, men with men. They committed indecent acts with one another, and they received in themselves the due penalty for their perversions. They're full of murder, envy, strife, hatred. They are insolent, arrogant, God haters. They are heartless. They are faithless. They are senseless. They are ruthless. They invent ways of doing evil.
Now, this comes right on the heels of Phil's controversial GQ interview, which led to him being suspended from the show. In the interview, he says that homosexual sex is the same thing as having sex with animals, and that gay people are the same as terrorists and drunks. Phil also went into racist territory with the interview, saying that black people were happier before the civil rights movement. Quote, "I'm with the blacks because we are white trash," which implies that black people are trash. Now, the whole thing was just really strange. There's about a 15-minute segment in the middle of the video where Phil just demonstrates duck call.
Interesting. Well, feathers continued to be ruffled as host on CNN's Crossfire debated A&E's move to suspend the patriarch of the extremely popular Duck Dynasty. Now, from this video, it appears that there is no consensus as to what's moral and what's immoral. Watch this next clip and see for yourself.
Can we at least stipulate that a private corporation, a private media company, it's not the government saying this, that says, I just don't want to be associated with those comments, at least has the right to say, this is not the kind of comment I want to be associated with as a private media company?
Well, first I need to apologize for my parents who are watching, but anyway, like there were several things actually that made me uncomfortable in what he said. And you know, I wasn't particularly thrilled with what you just mentioned, but newsflash, he's not polished. And we like that about him. And he's an entertainer. And so, yes, I actually do agree with you. I think that A&E has every right to contract with who they choose to contract with. They have 11.8 million viewers. I'm thinking they're not going away. But the bottom line is, we live in a society where we can't shut down debate just because we don't want to hear it. We need to be able to have a discussion, and I think a civil discourse, about what we believe on these matters of faith. There are deep issues that demand an answer in this country. And the issue of marriage, the issue of sin, is a difficult one. The issue of life. We talk about all sorts of very difficult issues that concern Women for America, and we're not going to shut up just because people don't want to hear it.
Well, we'll get into some of this. I just feel like I've been hearing people saying the First Amendment's being destroyed. This is not the government doing this. This is a private decision that's being made by a private corporation.
Can I just make one point?
They have the right to do it.
In this particular case, I do think they have the right to do it, but we have private businesses whose First Amendment free expression of religious rights are being squelched every day in this country. In New Mexico, you have Eileen's Photographers, who was shut down because the Supreme Court said that she had to take pictures of gay marriages. You have bakeries, you have printers. So, look, if you're going to say you have a right to contract with who you choose, it needs to work both ways. It needs to work for these businesses.
I'm sure we'll get around to that.
Yeah, well, and let me just say, my point earlier wasn't that it was illegal, it was that it was stupid. I mean, and LZ, you know, in the modern world, we have all sorts of different groups who have strong opinion. We have lots of people out here who feel deeply about a variety of issues. But isn't there some space in civil society for a Christian who is quoting the Bible? And the fact is, while he's clumsy and crude in some ways, he's essentially paraphrasing Corinthians. And he is, and the section, and he's doing it, by the way, in response to a very specific question. A reporter says to him, "How do you think about sin? How do you define sin?" And he basically takes St. Paul, and he doesn't do it as well as St. Paul did, but doesn't he have the right?
But go ahead.
No, but shouldn't people? Isn't there something wrong about punishing somebody for paraphrasing the Bible?
Well, it depends, right? I mean, we don't know what the stipulations of his contracts are. We do know that, typically speaking, and I work for two media companies, CNN as well as ESPN, in both of my contracts, it lets me know if I say something stupid, I could be fired, at the very least suspended. As a matter of fact, ESPN just made news because last week the reporters were sent out another reminder that if you say something ill-mannered towards what happened with the Jameson Winston verdict, you can get in trouble. You can't tell me that this man, who you keep calling unpolished, but let's not forget, he has a master's degree in education. This isn't some idiot out of the backwoods, as you're trying to characterize him, or as sometimes he characterizes himself. He has a master's degree. He's been around. He's a really smart man. He probably knew that this would brew up controversy. He was aware of the fact that this controversy would probably bring more attention to his show, and he's probably playing all of us right now. He's not an idiot.
Maybe he's a marketing genius, and great if he is, but, you know, can we just take a second there and recognize the verse? He was quoting 1 Corinthians 6.
You know what?
And hang on. And let me just say, you don't know what I'm going to say, and you're going to be surprised.
Okay.
There is something in that verse to offend all of us. It talks about adultery. It talks about greed. It talks about theft. It talks about sex outside of marriage.
What do you think about that?
And so there's a whole group of people who believe that homosexuality is a sin, along with, by the way, all these other behaviors. And we have to be able to express that.
So here's the thing, right? The Bible has been used throughout history as a way to oppress the minority. Wherever the majority is, they've always found the right verse to justify slavery, to justify keeping women. In fact, as a matter of fact, there's a couple of verses that should have you home right now. Go there. Verses that would have me, not being in the household that I'm in and not celebrating New Mexico's becoming the 17th state to have marriage equality. So whatever the majority is, whoever's in power can use the Bible to justify their positioning. What offends me is that I'm a Christian, okay? I believe Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I'm openly gay. And I don't have a personal conflict with either one of those positionings. And I'm sick and tired of pseudo-Christians using the Bible to justify being homophobic. Don't say this is Christianity. Say these are your beliefs.
Well, wait a second. Okay, say they're your beliefs. Here is an American citizen expressing his beliefs. And all of a sudden, he's going to be suspended because he expressed his beliefs?
Because his contract price says you're not supposed to say things like X, Y, and Z that probably goes against our HR policies.
LZ,
that's what he signed. That's what he agreed to.
Can we, though, not be fair to the fact that people that truly believe the whole text of the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, Orthodox Jews who believe their Old Testament, some Muslims, even the Dalai Lama, who believe that certain behaviors are sin. And by the way, there's a whole big list there, and I break many of them. I am the chief of sinners. Hang on, Van. Can we not agree that it is absolutely different believing in your faith and believing your sacred text and having a hatred and a bigotry towards people. And I agree with you.
May well be, but I do want to ask you this question because I am also, I was raised in the church. My grandfather was a bishop in our church. I'm raising my children to be kids of faith in California, which is sometimes controversial. And I just want
what, the faith part in California?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very secular, very secular. So listen, I think we have a lot in common.
Sure.
But I want to say this, and I want to say it even more forcefully.
Yeah.
If I were to point to the Bible and say, to point to the parts of the Bible that justify slavery, and I went on an interview and I said, I believe that black people should be enslaved because of the Bible, I would have my contract canceled. If I said that women should be subordinated, they should be under the boot heel of a man, they should never be at this workplace, I would lose my contract. Why is it, we are now in a position where there are things in the Bible that are no longer going to be acceptable in the middle of the public square? Why is that going to be considered an attack on Christianity as opposed to standing up for decency and respect for all Americans?
Well, first off, no one's arguing that they don't have a right to cancel contracts, and again, businesses can do as they choose.
So you agree with
but
the
what I'm
suspension?
saying, no, I don't think that they should suspend him because I think he was expressing his beliefs, and I don't think they will eventually. In fact, they're doing a whole marathon because it is a product that people want.
But he's already been suspended.
TLC says, please suspend him. We'd like to have him. But and I would like to think he's a marketing genius. I don't know. Maybe I should call him for some help for us if that's the case. That was pretty thoughtful. I don't think he did it on purpose. Because you know why I don't think he did it on purpose? Because nobody wants to be called a bigot and hateful. And by the way,
that's a whole industry based upon this.
Well, maybe so. But most people,
the whole station.
Most people, it is painful to point out things that hurt people's feelings. It's painful for me to talk about even the issue of divorce and cohabitation, out-of-wedlock birth, because it hurts people's feelings. But if we're going to point to what we think the Bible says or what is actually best for society, sometimes we have to say stuff that's not popular.
And by the way, ironically, if you read the whole interview and not just take one section, he talks very specifically about loving everybody. He talks very specifically about not being judgmental towards anyone, that's God's decision, not his. I mean, it is a remarkable. There are sections there where he sounds a lot like Pope Francis.
There's nothing really remarkable about slandering people and then coming around and saying love everybody. I mean, people have been doing that time and time again. Love the sinner, but hate the sin. I mean, that's nothing remarkable about that.
You too want to claim the right that you get to edit the Bible so that the parts you approve of ought to be allowed to be talked about.
Actually, what we're pointing out is the hypocrisy that the right always want to edit the Bible to justify their positioning on things. That's the part where,
what are we editing? I'm accepting the whole text.
You're for slavery, and you're going to
first off, I completely disagree that the Bible in any way justifies slavery.
Well, hey, listen.
I think it took comments on what happened.
I can't wait till after this commercial break.
Well, folks, there's no debate as far as we can see from what we've reported on concerning Yisrael Hawkins and his teachings concerning morality and the immoral actions of sodomy, fornication, adultery, and bestiality. But unlike what you just saw, it's not his opinion, it's fact, straight from the inspired Holy Scriptures. Here's how you can find out more for yourselves. Now, you can call or write the House of Yahweh and request your free Prophetic Word magazine and monthly newsletter. You can do so by writing the House of Yahweh at P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. Or you can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Or visit them on the web at www.yahweh.com or www.yisraelhawkins.com or www.yahwehsbranch.com. You can email them at info@yahweh.com, and for all calls outside the United States, please dial the number on your screen. So let the opinions of many flow like water off a duck's back, and prepare your minds to listen to the white buffalo, Yisrael Hawkins, as he sets the record straight. So get your pens and papers ready and prepare your minds to take part of the waters of life from the only place it's taught, the House of Yahweh. Up next, Yisrael Hawkins. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander, and thank you for watching.